Welcome to Task 3, Designing Your Own Web Page. And it's over to Mr. Thompson from a couple of years ago. And today we are going to be doing something extremely exciting. We are going to be learning about HTML. Well, what is HTML? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And this is the language that we use to create web pages. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. Hypertext refers to links. Okay, the proper formal name for a link is a hyperlink. All right, traditionally, in blue text and underlined on a web page, and when you click it, it takes you to another web page. And this was kind of one of the original principles of the World Wide Web, is that you could link to every other web page or website by putting in a link. Okay, I need to move me out of the way so you can see. There we go. Markup then refers to the way we use elements to define different parts of the web page, such as paragraphs of text, images, videos, and so on. And we're going to have a look at what an element is now. So a web page is structured around elements, and there are three important elements that we're going to look at today that a web page must contain. Okay, these are the HTML elements here. Within that, we've got the head element, which we're going to include today, but we're not going to look too much at what it does. And then we also have the body element. So in the HTML element, this is called the root element, all right? And everything else has to be contained within it. It's like our big basket of our web page, and everything that's on our web page has to be contained inside it. In the body element, that's where we actually put all the content that we want the user to see. Okay, so all the text, all the images, and so on. So today we are actually going to create our own web page. All right. Now this is going to be quite tricky. So what I strongly suggest you do is that you have this video open, you work through it with this video as I go through each step, and feel free to pause the video, check your code, okay, check the output, check it, you're happy with everything. Otherwise, I think it would just be too much to try and do all at the end of the video. So work through it with me. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is to go to this website where we can build a web page called Trinket. If I can get out of here, there we go. So it's trinket.io/HTML. It's linked on Satchel 1. And when you get there, you'll find that there is already a basic web page. So on the left, we have our HTML document, which we're going to write. And on the right, you have the output, the actual web page that you see. Okay, what you're going to want to do, the first thing is to just select all of that and press delete. Get rid of that. What you'll notice is the web page disappears because there's no HTML language anymore. So let me get this here. Let me get this here. So step 1. Okay, we're going to write the document type definition, or DTD. All this means is that it tells us that we're using a HTML document. Okay, it tells the browser this is not an image or a video, this is a HTML document that I want you to interpret. So when we type in HTML, we're going to need to use angular brackets. Okay, if you look on your keyboard above the apostrophe and the full stop, you'll find the angle brackets, or the less than and the more than sign. To use those, you're going to need to hold down Shift. Okay, so I'm going to hold down Shift, and whilst it's held down, I'm going to press the less than sign, okay, to get that angle bracket. Then I'm going to hold down Shift and press the number 1 to get an exclamation mark. Then I'm going to write doc type. Okay, document type, and then I'm going to leave a space, and then I'm going to write HTML. Now I always have to close, okay, with the other bracket, the more than sign. There we go, and that just tells us that we're doing a HTML document. Okay, that is step 1. Step 2, we are going to add in that overarching HTML element. So I'm going to press enter, and on line 2, I'm going to open my bracket, HTML. I'm going to close the bracket, and you will notice auto-magically, all right, it's created the closing tag. All right, so every tag has to have every element has to have an opening tag and a closing tag. And we can tell it's closing. Can you see there's a / just before the word HTML? Okay, that means this is the closing tag. Everything we add from now on must be nested within these tags, i.e. contained within these two tags. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a couple of lines there so we can type inside. Step 3. We're going to add that second element that I talked about, the head element, by typing the opening head tag. So again, I'm going to do my less than sign, head, close it, and again it automatically creates that closing tag. We're going to leave that for today. We'll probably look at that either next week or the week after, and I'm just going to go click on the next line, and we're going to add the body element. Okay, and to add the body element we need to use the body tag. So open bracket, body, close, and again I get the closing tag. Now, as I said, all the content of our website that the end user is going to see needs to be contained within the body tag. So I'm just going to put a couple of returns on there as well. Okay, it's going well so far. Step 5. Right, we're now actually going to add some content to our website. And the first thing we're going to want is a heading or a title. And there are 6 headings defined in HTML. We're going to use the first heading because that's the most important, the H1 element. So I'm going to add the H1 tag, open bracket, H1, close bracket. Okay, and again, it's added that closing tag. What am I going to call my web page? I'm just going to call it my first web page. There we go. Now, finally, we've actually got some content that we can see on the right. So on the left, we've got our HTML language. On the right, this is how the browser has interpreted it. It said, oh, there's some content in the body. Okay, it's in a heading tag. So can you see it's made the font big and it's made it bold? Okay, large font size and a bold weighting to say this is a title, right? This is important. Fantastic, right. Step 6 then. We're going to add a paragraph of text, all right, using the paragraph element, and to keep it short, that's just a P. So open bracket P, close P, it's added the closing tag. In here, I'm going to say, welcome to my web page. Hope you enjoy. Okay. And you can see it's brought that text on. And can you see how that's a sort of a more normal font size, normal weighting to show this is just normal paragraph text. Okay. Important to say, all right, don't include any sort of personal information that could identify you. So things like your name, your school, your address, all right. Obviously, this website, if someone had the link, they could technically go on your website on the internet right now. Okay, so in order to be safe, we just don't want to disclose any information that could identify us. Okay, safety first. So, whoops, I lost my slide. Step 7 then. Okay, so we're going to try and add an image now. All right, so what you want to do is you can find any image on the web. What I quite like is to use a website called Pixabay. Okay, Pixabay. This is because of something we talked about last week, which is copyright. Okay, and acknowledging if you've used information that belongs to somebody else on the internet. Pixabay is a really good website for images because you are allowed to use the images on there. Okay, as long as you attribute the copyright holder. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have a picture of a horse on my website. Let's go for these horses in the snow. And what you want to do is if you right click on the image, okay, and go copy image address, that will copy the hyperlink that you can pop onto your website. So to add an image then, we're going to need to add the image tag, and it's kind of abbreviated as IMG for an image. All right, then we need to leave a space, and we need to define the source of the image. Okay, we need to put in the hyperlink. To find the source, we're going to put src. All right, then we're going to press equals. Then we're going to do a quotation mark. Okay. and you can see it's already given me 2 quotation marks. It knows I want to put the link in there, and then I'm going to paste in that link from the website. So Control V, paste it in, and that image then appears on my website. Okay, fantastic. Now it's a bit big at the minute, so what we can do is after that closing quotation mark, we can leave a space, and then I'm going to define the width. So I'm going to write width, width, equals, and then I need to use my quotation marks again, and I'm going to type in 400. That means 400 pixels here. Okay, that's made it a bit smaller. That's 500 pixels. That's probably going to be a usable size. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that there is no closing image tag. Okay, that's because you cannot nest anything inside an image. I can't put any more content in an image, if that makes sense. Okay, I wouldn't want to put text inside an image. That doesn't make sense on a website. So it's kind of a self-closing element. What we can do if we want to be really fancy is we can add backspace and close it ourselves. That's kind of the proper way. But the browser knows it doesn't actually need to find that closing tag. It's kind of redundant, but we'll put it in there for good practice. Okay, so that is the main bit of task 1. As an optional step, okay, I did say we should always credit people whose information that we've used. So you could add a final line in there and use the cite element, okay? To cite something means to refer to it, to say it belongs to somebody. I borrowed it from this source. Okay, so I'm going to go open bracket CITE, whoops, and then I'm going to type in the name of the website. That's one way we could attribute the image to Pixabay. Okay, and you'll see when I do that, puts it in nice italic writing there to kind of, again, differentiate it. It's not a heading, it's not paragraph text. Okay, it's saying this is a citation, all right? This is kind of a different style of text. So the web browser knows to interpret the information in this way because we have marked it up, yeah? Hypertext markup language, all right? We're marking up what the information means, okay? The semantics, if you want to use the fancy word. Right, so that is, okay, that is the end of the first task today. So what I want you to do is I want you to share this with me so I can see it. So what you're going to want to do is click on the menu, okay, on the hamburger there. It says share. Click share and it gives you a link here. If you click on that link, I want you to copy it and paste it into class charts for me, okay? Either in the submit tab or just in the comments is absolutely fine. And that means that I can go to that link and I can view your website. Okay, so please make sure to do that. If you have some problems, you could always screenshot it and send me the screenshot. Okay, that would work as well. Hello there, present day Mr. Thompson here. So there's going to be 2 further kind of mini tutorials on how to use HTML. You can either incorporate those techniques into your original website or build a couple of new websites like I do in the tutorial and send me the links to those. That's absolutely fine. Okay, back to the lesson. And today, guys, we're going to do our second lesson in our kind of web design mini project that we're doing. So last week we looked at writing HTML, okay, to create the content of a website. This week we're going to look at something called CSS. So cascading style sheets, CSS, is a language used to describe the presentation of an HTML document. So the HTML document contains the content of our website, all right, things like the text, the images, the videos. But the CSS document, that defines the look, the appearance, the presentation of our document. So perhaps the fonts that we might use, the background, okay, and the different colours that we're going to use on our website. And this is contained in a separate .css file, which we're going to have a go with in a minute. So to reiterate that point, the HTML document describes the content. The CSS document describes the presentation. Okay, so we keep those 2 things separate when we design a web page. So there is a special syntax, all right, to CSS. Now, a syntax is kind of the rules that a specific programming language follows, okay, so that the computer can understand what you want it to do. It's a bit like, you know, in a spoken language we have particular syntaxes, okay? It's the same with a computer language. So the selector then is the element to which we want to apply the style. So let's say I had a heading 1. Remember we used a heading 1 last week. I would write that into my document, and we call that the selector. Then we actually use these curly brackets in CSS, okay, not the angular brackets like in HTML. So we open the brackets, and then we write what's called the declaration, all right? And this comes in 2 parts. The first is the property, so the thing that we want to change, all right? And here I've said color, which means the font color, so I want to change the color, and I've written the word color. Now you might have noticed it's spelt a little bit differently, okay? Despite the fact that the internet was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, who is English, we do tend to write in US English, okay, when we're designing web pages, so there is no U in the word color, okay, so you're thinking, oh, it's not working, you've probably put a U in color when you don't need it, okay. Then we put a colon, and then we type the value, okay, the actual kind of color, let's say, that we want to use with the color property, and I've just typed blue here, and so that will make the font blue. Then we have to end it with a semicolon. I'm going to show you where all these keys are on the keyboard when we get typing. So that's just to show the main parts of the syntax in CSS. So what are we going to do today? We are going to go back to trinket.io/HTML, and I'm going to talk you through the steps. Okay, so again, like last week, you probably want to keep the video rolling and work as I talk. So we're going to click the menu and select reset. So let's come out of here. When you go to trinket.io/HTML, it's probably still got your project from last week, okay, it might have remembered it. So there's a little hamburger menu icon there, click on that. If you click reset, okay, it'll take it back to the standard Trinket loading page. So let me get my steps up. Step 1, delete all the content within the body tags, and it should look like that there. So basically the body tag is here. I'm going to select all that and delete it. So we've got kind of that basic framework that we want to be working with. This week we're going to leave the stuff in the head, okay? We actually need that this week, so we're going to leave that there. Bro. Step 2. Let's add a heading and a paragraph. Okay, so we've got some text on our website. So in the body tag, I'm going to open the angle brackets. I'm going to type H1 for heading 1. You can call it whatever you want, or you can copy mine, it's fine. My stylish web page. And it's already put my closing tag on there. So I'm going to create a new line, start a new paragraph, which is the P tag. Look how I've mastered CSS, and again it's giving me my closing P tag with that /. Right, so that's all we're going to put in our HTML document today. We are going to click on this other tab. You can see here it says style.css, so this is the cascading style sheet that we're going to work with. Let's delete everything from there. So I've got this very well arranged. Let's literally select everything and press delete. And you will notice our web page is rendered back to kind of that plain looking appearance, okay, because we haven't defined any styles. So the first thing we're going to have a go at is to do a background color. Okay, so we have to type the selector. Let's type that in, so body. Then we have to use the squiggly brackets. Now, if you press shift, okay, and above there's some square brackets a little bit above shift, but you can see there's it's got the curly brackets on there as well. So if I hold shift and press it, it'll give me a curly bracket. Now it's kind of a convention on CSS. I'm going to press enter to put me on another line, and can you see it's created the closing bracket? Okay, it often does that, the software, to help us. And so everything we want to say about the body has to be enclosed within these brackets. So now we need to write the declaration, which is going to start with the property that we want to change, and we want to change the background color. So we type background hyphen color with that American spelling. Okay, then we're going to do a colon, which is shift, and then you'll see a colon, semicolon button, but we need to hold down the shift for the colon. There we go. Now, we need to write a colour. In CSS, there are loads of colours that are defined with words. And here, there's loads of pages like this. You can just search for it on the internet, CSS colours if you want. But here, it tells you lots of names of different colours. Okay, so you can choose a colour that you like. So I've gone for royal blue. I think I tried earlier. Let's try that. Boom. Okay. And if the page changes colour there, then we know that we've kind of got the syntax correct and that our CSS is working. Okay, so I've got a nice blue background. You can choose any colour you want. So the next property I'm going to add is the text align. So after that semicolon that I put at the end, I'm going to write text hyphen align. And this means how the text is justified on the page. Okay, so you've probably seen in Word to the left, to the centre, to the right. So let's put in the colon, shift colon, and I'm going to centre it now. Again, this is one of those American spellings. Okay, it's ER on the end, not RE. Whoops, I even typed the wrong one there. So just be careful of that. But if you've done it correctly, it should move the text to the centre of the page. Fantastic, right. Let's put one more property in. So I'm actually going to change the font now, okay? Let's change it to, so font family is the property. Font hyphen family. I'm going to put in my colon. And you probably know lots of fonts. Now the font will need to be on your computer for it to display. I've put some suggestions here. Arial, Helvetica, Comic Sans, MS. You need to type that as all one word. Georgia, Impact, Monaco. I'm going to go for Monaco. Why not? Let's do it. I think this is a monospace font, probably. Monaco. Yes, kind of. Brilliant. So that changes the font. Okay. If I typed Arial, it'll change the font to Arial. Comic Sans would be all one word. Comic Sans MS, isn't it? Changes the font again. Let's settle on a font. Let's go for, I quite like Helvetica. Let's go for that. Helvetica. Okay. So I've got my fonts. What was the next thing we're going to have a go at? Right, we're going to now add another selector. Okay, so we need to go onto another line after that closing bracket. I'm going to type H1 for heading, put a space, open my curly bracket, shift and bracket, color. Now the word color, okay, simply defines the font color. So if we type color, American spelling again, and I think white works quite well on a dark background, so I'm going to type white. Okay, and you can see it's changed the heading one to a white colour. Another thing we could do is I'm going to make it all uppercase, so it's in nice sort of capital letters. So that's the text transform property, text hyphen transform, colon, and I'm going to type the word uppercase, all one word. Boom, you see it's put it in capital letters. Okay, let's do one more today. Let's change the paragraph font. Oh, I've spelt it wrong there. Colour, there we go. So, new selector, P, open the bracket, new line. I think I tried the tomato colour. Let's see what that looks like. Cool, I quite like that. Giving it a tomato colour there. So, they are the steps that I would like you to follow for task 1, okay? Add the heading 1, the paragraph to your HTML, open up the style.css document, have a go at putting in that information to style your web page. You can use whatever colours and different colours. You could align the text to the left, to the right, choose any font you want, okay, to design the page as you would like. Once you've done that, then we need to click on the menu and then on share. That will give you this link. If you click once and then Control-C to copy it, go on to class charts, either in the comments or in the submit tab, paste that in, Control-V. That means I can access your web page and see how you got on. And today, guys, we are going to look at something called CSS animations. Now, last week we learned about CSS, cascading style sheets, and how they apply styles to the content of our web page. But we can actually change those properties over time so that, for instance, the color of a font or a shape or the position of something on the page will change over time as the user is looking at the web page to create an animation effectively. And there are 3 tasks today. Okay, I'd love you all to have a go at the first one, the second one if you have time, and the third one if you want a bit more of a challenge. We're going to be using Trinket.io again, so if you go back to the web page, you may find that your work from previous week is there, so you can just press reset, yes I'm sure, and it will take you back to the default page. Now the first thing to do is get our document set up. What I'd like you to do is just remove everything between the body tags. That's lines 6 to 15 on the default web page. It just gets us back to a blank page but with everything in the background that we want. It is on the slides here as well. Okay, so step 2, we're going to add just a few elements which we are going to animate. So the first thing I want you to add is a heading 1 in the body tag. So that's shift, angle brackets, H1, and I'm just going to call this cool text and do it in capital letters, because why not? You can just kind of see it there. The next thing we're going to want is a div tag. A div element is just a generic container that we can use. It doesn't have much semantic meaning, okay, which is why we shouldn't overuse it, but it's just if we want to make a generic kind of shape, we can use a div tag. That won't appear yet because we haven't given it any properties. And then let's have a second heading. I'm going to call that H2, and we'll call this my expanding text, because it's going to get bigger, but you can write whatever you want. It doesn't really matter what it says. It's just so we've got something on the web page to play with. That's all we need to do in the HTML. We're going to jump into the style sheet, into the CSS, okay, and here you can select everything and remove it all, okay, and then it just goes back to that plain Times New Roman, okay, like we're in 1993 or something. Right. Next step then, we've done all that, is to add the H1 information. So let me get this here and here so you can see a bit of both. So in the CSS, we just simply have to type the selector, so H1, and then we're going to use the curly brackets. So that's shift and bracket, there we go. I'm going to pop it on a new line. It's created the closing bracket already for me. And this is a new term that we're going to use today. It's animation. Animation. Okay, I'm going to type a colon. That's shift and the colon. And then we have to define the different animation properties. The first property we have to write is the name of the animation that we're going to connect it to, which we're going to do in a minute. I'm going to call that cool text, no gap. I'm just going to call it cool text. Okay. Then I'm going to leave a space so it knows that we're going to refer to a different property now. And I'm going to type 4 and then S, and that means 4 seconds. This is how long I want the animation to last. So you can play with this, you don't have to do 4 seconds, but I'm going to do 4 seconds. Now, once the animation is played, it will just come to an end, and I don't want that. I want it to keep looping round, a bit like in Scratch when, or with the microbit when we use those forever loops, okay? And the way we do that here is we type the word infinite. It means just keep going forever, yes, infinite. Infinite. There we go. So that's all we have to do on the H1 selector. We now have to actually write the animation. So to do that, we need to press Shift and then the @ symbol, like in your school email address, okay, @. And we type the word keyframes, all one word. This is the CSS way of knowing that we're defining an animation. But which animation? Well, we've already called it cool text. So I'm going to write that there. So @ keyframes, cool text, and then I'm going to open my curly brackets, press spacebar, and here we go. So the simplest way to do this is to say how we want the animation to be at the start and how we want it to end up at the end. So I'm going to type from, i.e. from at the start, curly bracket. We've got brackets within brackets here, okay, so we have to keep track of them. Colour, we know that's the American spelling, no U, colour, and you can choose any colours you want. Okay, can I think of a cool colour right now in CSS? Aqua, there we go. And already you can see it starting to work. Okay, that's because it goes back to the default, which is black. But I don't want that, I want aqua. I'm going to close that bracket and it just shows you there it's connected to that same line. I'm going to do a new line, 2 curly brackets, colour from aqua to, let's do, is cream a colour? I can't remember. No, let's do red. Let's put red on there. Okay, and you can see it goes from aqua to red and then it goes back to the start again. Okay, and that is the first task, guys, okay, to kind of have that changing colour text. Awesome. Right, task 2 then, we're going to create a box that's going to move across the page. Okay, so that was what that div was for in the HTML. So I'm going to type down a couple of lines and I'm going to start to define this. So we have to write the selector, which is div. I'm going to open the brackets, press spacebar. I'm going to give it a width, how wide the shape is. So I'm going to type width, colon, and 100 pixels. I'm going to type there. Then I'm going to define the height, and we'll do a square, so we'll say 100 pixels again. Okay, you can see it started to create the shape there, but it doesn't have any colour yet, so we can't see it. We need to state its position on the page. I won't go into why we need to do this today, but we need to type the word position and relative. That means it moves with relative to the other contents on the page. Relative. Okay. Then we need to define the background colour. So background, I think we used this last week, hyphen, colour, no U, and let's go green. Okay. And finally we can actually see the shape. So we've got a green box there, but it's not moving. The last thing we need in the div is animation, okay, which we used before. I'm going to call this animation move. Let's just call it move. I want it to move for 5 seconds. And I want it to happen an infinite number of times. Okay. Brilliant. So now we're going to actually define the animation. So I'm going to leave a couple of spaces. I'm going to put the at keyframes. What did we call it? We called it move. So I'm going to link it there. And I'm going to open my brackets, my curly brackets. How do I want it to start? Well, I want it to start where it is on the left at 0 pixels, really. So I'm going to type from, open the bracket, left, 0 pixels, close that bracket, okay. Always got to have those brackets nested. And then 2. Well, I want the left to change from 0 to 300, which means it's going to move across the page. Okay, it's already starting to happen. There we go. So watch that. 5 seconds, and it moves across the page. Okay. Now, your imagination is probably already whirring. Okay. I could change the size as it moves as well, and you know, you can have a play around with that. But if you ever want to do that within these brackets, you can contain all these sort of initial states and then the final states, and the computer works out the steps in between to make it animate. So I could, it could start off with a width of 100, but by the end it could have a width of 50, and you'll see it'll gradually get smaller now. Except I have deleted that bracket. Width 100. Oh, I got rid of that semicolon by accident. There we go. So you can see there that the box will change. Okay, I can change the width. I could change the background color, lots of different things. But I'll leave that one there, and we'll move on to the final task today. We're going to create some expanding text. You might remember in the original, oh, well, we can see it there, can't we? My expanding text is in the H2 element. So I'm going to type H2, curly bracket, start a new line, animation, and we're going to call this tracking. Tracking is kind of a fancy word for the distance between the letters. Okay, so I'm going to call that tracking. Let's make it quite quick, 2 seconds, but let's have it on an infinite loop, infinity, there we go. Brilliant, that's all we need to do in the H2 element. Leave a couple of lines, and I'm going to do my at keyframes. I called it tracking. I'm going to open my brackets. I'm going to have a from, and we're going to use something called opacity now. Now, I think Year 4 were learning about this the other week. Basically, whether something is see-through or not. I'm not sure. I'm sure I heard some of you doing that in school. An opacity of 0 means something is completely see-through. Okay, i.e., we can't see it. We can use that to hide things on the web page. You can see there. Okay, it's starting to disappear. Now, tracking is called letter spacing. Letter spacing. And I'm going to give it a negative one, so they're all bunched up, so the letters are actually kind of over the top of each other. So I'm going to give it a minus 0.5. EM is a distance, measure of distance and font size in CSS. My goodness, you can already see it there expanding. Cool. Okay. You can actually see, because even before you've written a 2, it goes to whatever the default would be. So technically you don't have to add it if it's doing what you want, but just for completeness, we are going to add it in. So the opacity's gone from 0. I want it to go to 1. I can't see it till I can see it. And then the letter spacing, we'll take it back to 0. Okay, close that bracket. Let's just check that all looks good. Yeah, okay. So there we have it. We have our 3 animations, changing the color, the font color, changing the position and the size of a shape, and changing the letter spacing and the opacity, okay? So best of luck with that today, guys. As usual, if you click on the menu and click share, you can then click on that so it's blue, Control-C, Command-C on a Mac, copy that, paste it, either into the submit tab or just into a comment on class charts, and I can have a look at the work you've done today. If you decide to create your own animation doing different things, maybe you want to change the background color on that square or something, that'll be absolutely cool. Feel free to send that over to me. So hopefully you've managed to build a web page or 2 and submit them to me on class charts. If you're still up for the challenge, I've got a few questions for you as well. If you just click through onto the Microsoft form links on class charts, the questions are on HTML and CSS, everything that you've covered building the website today. Just pop your name in, multiple choice questions, make sure you answer each one, otherwise it won't let you submit at the end. A couple of questions ask for 2 options, so make sure you tick 2 and then you can press submit there. It will tell you what score you got, so if you're not happy with your score, please do feel free to resubmit another response, and I'll only ever accept your highest score. No need to submit that on class charts, that will come automatically to me, the results of the quiz, okay? Right, best of luck. Thank you.